this all going. All right, man. Welcome, Brian. Thanks for being here. Apologies, everyone. We had some technical difficulties. Appreciate you making the time for this. I think it should be a cool conversation, both for me, gleaning some insights, probably for the viewers, and then hopefully we can spend some time kind of hashing out where you're in your business right now and maybe providing something valuable. Who knows? We'll try our best in that department. No promises. Before we dive into it, just give them like the elevator pitch. Who's Brian Miller? What's your land origin story? How'd you end up in LIA? What's the story there?
Okay. Yeah, glad to be here. So I started investing in real estate back in it was 2016. Just buying small multifamily apartments and single family homes, and the goal was to be, by the time I'm 30, which I hit that this year, was to not retire, but live off of that. And while rentals are a slow way to get there. In the meantime, on my regular job, I was doing roofing, started my own roofing company, still running that today, but was always looking for that, something that I could add to the rentals, that I can live anywhere, have time freedom, work when I want, and that's what I found in land. I found that about a year ago. Found some YouTubes about this. You can buy this cheap land for like $500, sell it for $1,000. Like, this is cool. So kept watching YouTube, and then I found your channel back in December, and that was back when you still put on the coaching calls. And I like that a lot. That was a lot of good information then. I think in January you quit putting those on. So in January when I started, we were very seasonal because I live in Ohio. So on the roofing side, so I was in Florida for the winter, not working. So it was literally cold calling, trying to buy land, and that is a slow grind. It sucks. So I did that for 2 months. I got 2 deals out of that, and I did what everybody else does. I was trying to buy in Florida, and that market was so saturated. And I send out mailers there as well. I think 2000 January, I did not get one call. Wow. So by the time I went back to Ohio in March, I was like, well, Florida, that's not the place to be. This sucks. So as far as trying to buy land, I switched, did some in West Virginia, send out more mailers. My goal was like 1,000 a month to start, and there I did a lot better since I was like in West Virginia, Ohio, areas like that. Not try to find states that are not quite as saturated. Yeah. So, and then in July I joined LIA, so that way I could get the coaching calls, and since I couldn't find them on YouTube anymore. So, so yeah, it's been a learning curve. It's been fun. I mean, I have a real estate experience, so that definitely helps.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I think I probably mistitled this video. I said mobile home investor to land investor, but frankly, you've been doing all different things in real estate. Sounds like mainly buy and hold, though. Were you doing any fix and flip or wholesale before this?
No, I literally just bought, sat on, and it's a good. I would definitely recommend anyone to do it, but it's not like to have enough rentals to retire, or not retire, but be able to live wherever at 30. That's pretty hard. Yeah. So, and that's what I really like about the land. It's so like everything. Like one of my life mottos is like simplicity, and it's so simple. You buy a piece of land, get a realtor, put it back on the market, and sell it. Like it
doesn't get much more simpler than that, man. I love simple businesses. I love weird businesses, and I love simple businesses. I think complexity is for fools, honestly. Like, just do a simple thing over and over and over and over again, and good things tend to happen. So it sounds like the goal is to take this as your full-time thing. Like, is it to get out of roofing, or you can continue that? What's the goal with land?
The goal is to be replace my roofing income or match my roofing income 2024, and then get out of that in 2025. I want to be able to literally the whole year of 2025. I'm not going to be in Ohio and just travel the world or do whatever I want, because it's been a 10-year process to get here. And it's like one of my mentors, Mark Evans, always says, like, if you're starting a new business, do something that's like next door, or next to you, not just jump into a whole new realm. So that's what I really like with the rentals.
Yeah.
The land just goes hand in hand with that. So
Yeah. 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 I always think about like it's okay if you have multiple businesses, but I think they all have to be a flywheel that kind of feeds into the center, right? And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, damn, why am I running so many businesses or always think about starting new businesses? I'm like, well, if it all feeds back into the same thing, I think it's okay. I mean, still there's a tipping point where too much is too much. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, am I taking on too much? But I seem to enjoy it. So it sounds like take land full time. Since you've been in the land game, sounds like roughly a year. How many deals have you done, and what's the transition been like for your business? You started crappy Florida infill lots where most people start, and what kind of deals are you going after now?
now I'm more going after rural land. I bought 7 deals, sold 6 of them, got one that's listed currently. Right now my profit's right at 51,000. My
Sweet.
goal is to hit 100K this year, unless I get a couple good deals. It's still doable, but
It's
probably not.
doable, man. I've seen it happen. It's doable.
Yeah.
You
Um,
can make that in one deal. Sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. How and for context, to people here, how much like marketing, which is mainly going to be mail, how much? I don't think you're cold calling anymore. How much mail are
uh,
you doing every month?
I was at 1,000 a month at first. I send out from the deals I got. I send out 12,248 mailers, and I got 5 deals out of that. So my deal per mailer is like 2,449.
Okay.
The bummer is in September I bombed my mailers. I send out 5,000 in September.
Yeah.
Literally, I priced them too low. I don't know, because I was getting before the 5,000, I did not get one deal out of that. Before those 5,000, I was getting a deal every 1,500. So I was like,
Yeah. Were these
but
all new markets that you were mailing?
that was kind of around the surrounding areas of our other markets that did good,
Okay.
and throwing in some new markets.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting. I changed maybe a little bit too much because I started my mailers. I did not have an LLC. I just put down my name. I did not have the clause in the contract of that I could market it beforehand. And there was something else I did. I offered a little bit lower. So those 3 things I changed went for those 5,000 in September, and like everything went, like I didn't get as many calls. All the calls I got were just pissed off people. So I'm trying to figure out, maybe it's better to just put my name on there, not put my LLC name on.
So, yeah, I mean, first off, I've never shared this with anyone, but I didn't use an LLC for like a year and a half. I just put everything under my own name. You can still have your LLC on there, but have a lot of it like where it shows your name. So it's like not like, hey, you're signing off as whatever LLC land buyers or something like that. So you definitely want to have a personal touch, but everything should be held under the LLC for those deals. And really, what I think everyone should do is they should have an LLC for their marketing, but that's not going to be the LLC you hold assets in. So we market under X, Y, and Z LLC. And then when we actually get that property under contract, we'll assign it to the other LLC just to kind of create some separation there. But the LLC is that having that on the contract is not what's going to move the needle. It's that's 100% or very close to 100% related to having the clause about marketing the property. You never want to put those into blind offers. I mean, never. I mean, there's sure you can do it, but it'll really, really hurt your response. So I always have played the game where it's like, it's easier to explain that verbally to someone than it is in a letter. So let me just cast a line, get them in, and then I can renegotiate or create new terms. That's how we do all of our double closing. Michael Bull, who I'm sure you've talked to in the group, he tried doing that for a couple of months, and like his response rate dropped by like 75% or something like that. So he's actually reverted back to it. I also think that like if you are going to market someone's property and you're going to do what we're talking about here is a double close, if you are going to do that, at least in my mind, I want to have some rapport with them, because I think that if we have rapport and they see it listed, okay, they're probably not going to freak out. But if we don't have any rapport, we never really converse much, and they see it listed, they might go and call their lawyer or call someone just because they're in a tizzy. So I think it's a fine line we play on the double closing front. But the other thing, of course, is pricing does matter. But I guarantee if you change that clause, you're going to see response rate goes up.
Yeah, and I took it out for my 5,000 in October. So because I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, I
It's
would
not
rather.
worth it, man. And that's the thing. Even if you bomb pricing, you typically are still going to get responses. They're just going to be angry responses. And so usually when you get no responses, it's either like the envelope's different, or the actual text is different, or the terms are different. Like there's something structurally different about like what they're receiving, or there's just the timing variable. Like you just totally screwed the pooch on timing, and there's not really much you can do about that. People get pissed when they mail and it doesn't work, but I'm like, well, you're also not jumping up and down when you mail and you send 200 letters and you get a 100K deal. Like it works in your favor sometimes and it works against you sometimes. It's just how it goes.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
it's a numbers game. Like I was way above the at 1440. I was above the numbers. I was due to have
those were pretty insane stats. And that goes back to what we say, dude. If you're a new land investor, 2,000 to 2,500 letters per deal is a really safe spot. Even 2,500 is not bad. You know, we're talking about spending maybe $1,300 on marketing to secure a deal. That's insane, given what our deals make. What's been the average gross on the deal? I guess I could do the math. 6, and then you said 51K is what you've made.
I'm not even sure. I figured everything else up probably, but I did some lower end deals at first. Okay. So it would be about 650, about 8,000. But the last couple I had more to buy for 20, sell for 40. It's kind of what I'm going for.
So you joined LIA at that. Before that point, were you doing mainly the smaller stuff, or had you kind of already transitioned out of that?
I was transitioning. With what I'm a little lucky because I have the roofing company, so I can use a lot of that profit to start to fund my deals. So that's kind of why I'm like, why in the world did I even put in the double close thing? Because literally, I throw it back. I just get a realtor and put it back in the market as soon as it buys. So it's really no point in having that clause in there.
It's not, man, because our first line of defense is always a cash offer. We use the double close where it's like property's kind of shitty or we just can't agree on price. But I would rather hold title because there's just less risk factor there. Mm-hmm. So unless you're strictly a double close person, and even then I still wouldn't recommend it for most people. Just out of curiosity for my own kind of market research, if you will, or just better understanding. So prior to LIA, you were kind of sharpening the sword, moving more towards bigger deals. At that point, like what was the roadblock for you in terms of just like jumping into the bigger deal stuff, and why did you say, hey, I need help here?
The biggest thing was I like I said, the coaching calls on YouTube were awesome, so I wanted that. And the roadblock, I had 3 deals under contract, and I was getting close to 100K of my own money in it. So it was like, well, I need to sign up. If I sign up with LIA, I can have like more funding options and stuff. Yeah. But then, of course, my mailers bombed, and I didn't need the money. So now I got those sold and got some cash sitting here waiting on the next deal. So, but yeah, I feel like being in a group that like-minded people that are doing the same thing, you can learn a lot. So that was the biggest.
Yeah, dude, it's funny you say that. So I think that's like the thing people don't anticipate. I think a lot of people say like, well, I need the information, and like, the information is somewhat important, but it's really about the community aspect that I think is way more valuable than some bits and pieces in a course. You know what I mean? That's why I think like courses are frankly just kind of overrated for what we do. I think the community aspect is huge. And I'm gonna give a whole speech about this at the event coming up this weekend. But that was the shit I was missing, man. Like I was obsessed with this business when I first got started, to the point that I literally ended a 3-year relationship because I was so obsessed. I couldn't take my mind off of it. But I had no one to confide. I had no friends that understood this. And I'm like, dude, one day I'm gonna have a group of other people and we're gonna do this together. And it's frankly just made me a better land investor, just being around others. So that's cool to hear. That's music to my ears. Okay, so you've got 1 deal that's actively listed. You've sold the other 6. What's that deal you have actively listed right now?
That is a buy for 21, listed at 39.9.
Okay.
Cool. So that's getting a lot of interest. I think lastly, it went on the market Friday. It had like 300 views, so pretty good numbers, I'd say.
Solid. Yeah, if you can get more than 100 views a day, you're typically in a good spot.
Yeah, and it's Hampshire County in West Virginia. And those
I know, dude. Hampshire is a great market. It's a great market. We actually had our fastest selling deal ever in Hampshire. It was up on the MLS for like 45 minutes. And we got multiple offers. It was crazy. If you don't mind kind of sharing roughly the secret sauce, like what kind of properties are you going after? It sounds like it's mainly rural stuff, but you want to fill me in on that?
Yeah, mainly rural. I hit some very rural stuff in West Virginia, but that's crazy. Like half of them don't have road access, or there's 15 different people on title.
Yeah.
But I got a good deal out of that county. Then I bought it for 20 and actually sold it with uh, realtor down there on online auction. So that was kind
Mm,
of interesting. That's what he recommended, and it sold for 40.
wow.
But yeah,
That's interesting.
I'm literally sticking to um, just the rural stuff, trying
Okay.
to anywhere. Usually, just hit the whole county between 5 to 100 acres. And
Okay.
I actually use a different mail company than Rocket. I don't know if you ever heard of offers to owners.
Yeah. Yeah. I've used them a bunch.
Okay, because I like well, my problem was like I do not have a lot of time
Yeah.
to with the roofing and stuff, so I'm only spending maybe 2 3 hours a week on this.
Okay.
So I just find the county, basically make sure it has a sell through rate of basically sell through 6 month. If there's 10 listed and it has 10 sold, I'm gonna send it.
Okay.
And
Cool. 100%. So,
so
one question that I have, and it's fleeting through my mind. Let me go back to it though. You said 2 to 3 hours a week is what you're spending on the business.
yeah, that's max.
Wow, dude,
Um,
that's insane. That might be one of the lowest I've ever heard. And yet you're still doing deals and you're still finding markets consistently and you're still marketing consistently. What is that 2 to 3 hours? What does that makeup look like? Like, how are you splitting your time up in a week?
that is usually I try to send out mailers every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So usually in my spare time, evenings or whatever, I'm doing market research and then just sending out the info, and then the rest would be well, if I'm roofing or whatever, I'm taking phone calls and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Dispo just have pretty good. Most of my areas I have a good realtor now, so
Yeah.
but yeah, the main hassle is to get everything notarized and send out. The one title company I use doesn't let me wire stuff, so I have to send out a check, certified check.
Oh my God, that's rough.
So
Is that in West Virginia?
yeah, of course.
Yeah, I had a feeling, man. They got the worst fucking closing attorneys there. The worst. My God.
Yeah,
That's crazy though. 2 to 3 hours a week. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna answer just a few things in the chat here. Matt, what's up, man? Noah, good to see you. RG says, starting out, do I need to have an LLC? No, you don't. I didn't have it. Like I said, I didn't have an LLC for like a year and a half. Like, there's obviously a lot more liability involved there, and there's some tax benefits. But frankly, if you're just getting started in this business and you haven't done any deals, just put your money towards deals. Like, again, I'm not a lawyer, so like it's up to you at the end of the day. But I would rather, when you're starting out, typically you have finite funds to put to this business. That $1,000 to register an LLC, way better spent to go and send some marketing and do some deals. I think the other thing is that, like, I don't think you should have an LLC until revenue comes in, unless you're a proven entrepreneur. But if you're like new to the world of building businesses, I don't even trust that you're going to see this out. So don't spend any money there. Spend something that's actually going to generate a return. I think once you've made about 50K in your business, you should migrate from into an S corp and get some additional tax benefits. But I wouldn't even worry about that until you've got about 50K of revenue. So yeah, man, to answer your question, many folks get an LLC initially. You're not going to be penalized if you don't. You'll be fine. Just go do a couple deals, let the business pay for the LLC. That's my belief. And I waited a long time to do it. Okay, going back to what you're saying here. So it sounds like everything's getting listed with realtors, most of the times picking markets, talking to sellers, that kind of stuff. Are you using Pat Live? Like, do you have an answering service or are you doing all the
I
calls?
don't, I
Okay.
don't. I need to. I would like basically right now. All my leads are on Notebook, no CRM or anything. Like,
Dude,
I'm,
this is a classic example, and I love hearing these counterpoints. You can slice and dice this business in the simplest fashion. Fucking, you have pen and paper, no answering service. You take your own calls and you spend a few hours a week doing it. It's just it's a cool reminder. Like, if you focus on what's really important, the rest is just irrelevant, at least temporarily. When you have thousands of leads or even hundreds of leads, the CRM does matter. But in the beginning, LOC, CRM, you don't need it. Just get out there, start getting deals, getting in front of people. Has it gotten to you yet, though, taking all those inbound calls? That's one thing that really I just hated after a while. Like, you're always on the hook for a call.
so far, it's not bad.
Okay.
Basically, what I'm planning on doing in the winter when it slows down, the roofing slows down, I'll be setting up my CRM and Pat Live. But the way I look at any business I start, like even my roofing company was the same way. Like, start do the profit generating activities first, like
Yeah.
send mailers, cold call. Like, I don't understand why people start to get a CRM, get an LLC, You have no clue if you're going to make it or not. Like make money, then worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
But
I totally agree. And I think this is, to some extent, has like slowed some of my growth in this business and other businesses. But I'm also a believer that growth should be fueled by cash flow. So it's like, if you don't have a track record, let's not go drop, $250,000 into mail. Like, let the business fuel the growth. I think a lot of folks, they just dig themselves into a huge hole before they've seen anything. We talk to people that have spent $100,000 in the business, whether it's through marketing or systems or VAs or coaching, like whatever it may be, and they got nothing to show for it. I think that's just insane. You can pick up your phone, you can get a list, you can skip trace it, costs you a couple $100, and you can go and get deals. Rylan, you guys don't know this, but Rylan's one of our coaches inside LIA. He's been with us for a long time, like coming up on 2.5 years, I think. And when he first started, I said, download a list. We gave him a list. I said, just start cold calling these people. And it was a grind. I mean, he'd make hundreds of calls a day to maybe get like 10 people to answer. Like, the pickup rate was so low. And we started locking up deals that way. It's certainly possible. It's not what I would say is scalable, but it certainly does work. In terms of goals for this year, like, what would be the line in the sand end of 2023? We're like, holy shit, that was a success.
100K. I'm going to start. If I hit 100K, I'll be very happy.
Do you have anything in the pipeline that you think could get you there?
I had a good deal. It was a crazy deal. Buy for 75, and it had the clause in there, and it had it pre-sold already for 28. And the lady backed out.
Oh,
her nephew wants to buy it, but I don't think. I feel like that deal is going to come back. Yeah, he won't get the money to buy it. I don't think.
But yeah. You said 280 or 28?
28,000.
28,000, and it was under 7,500.
Yeah, but for under 75. So
cool. And what about 2024? What's the line in the sand? Like, what's the North Star for you guys?
I want to hit 250, and I feel like it's. I have a secretary on my roofing side that's just part time now. She'll be full time and doing more of the land, and I'll be getting out. Right now, I'm 5 days a week on the roof, and I'll be down to 3 hopefully. So I'll have a lot more time next year. So I feel like 253 is a very attainable number, and that will supplement my roofing income. And then the proof of concept's there.
Yeah, 250 is. I mean, it's a very, very reasonable number. If you can make 100K your first year, which I think is also a really reasonable number, I think that, like, you've only been with us since July. So if you're really chugging along and you've got some kind of coaching or some kind of playbook to go and execute on, and you've got 12 months and you've got money to spend on marketing, I think $250,000 to 300K, we've seen that time and time again, is pretty doable. If you're like a crazy just animal and you just stick to this business, I think $500,000 is doable your first year. So 250 your second year is totally doable. One of the little exercises that I want to go through with you, and I wish someone did this with me when I just in general when I got started building businesses, because like for me, I grew up poor. Like, money was always the thing that I was chasing, and I thought it would solve a lot of problems, and it does and it doesn't. It has pros and it has cons. But what I never did is I never had anti-goals against my goal. What an anti-goal would say is like, right, how I used to say is like, I just want to make $250,000. I didn't care how I got there. I would do anything to get there. But instead it's like, I'm gonna make $250,000, and these are the non-negotiables of how that money is gonna be made and what my lifestyle is gonna look like. So you make 250 next year. What are the anti-goals? Like, what are the things you don't want to do? What are the things that you do want to do beyond just the money? Is like, yo, I'm gonna live in a van and travel the country. I'm gonna travel internationally. What does that look like?
Okay, I'm not quite yet. You're saying what are the anti-goals? Like,
so like, here's the thing. Like, you could say somewhere, I'm going to make $250,000 next year, but that might require you working 60, 70, 80 hours a week behind a computer, 6 or 7 days a week. You could still make 250 doing that, but that sounds pretty horrible. You say, I want to make 250 next year, but the non-negotiables are, I want to travel once a month. I want to only spend this much time in the business. I only want to work in these parts in the business. Like, it's less about the goal of reaching this kind of monetary destination and more a question of like, how is that money made? Less so of like, how much are we going to make?
Gotcha.
So what are like the non-negotiables that would go along with making 250? If that makes sense.
I would say next year it's still full send because I'm going to be roofing and doing the land. So like there's like it's nothing like I'm going to be building the businesses. But I would say 2023 non-negotiables is like that's when my life starts, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That's when I get the time freedom to travel. Then Then non-negotiables like 2023 would be like goals like make 500,000, but work maybe 10 to 20 hours a week and be able to travel wherever I want and work when I want.
Yeah.
So I would say then, like for 2024, it's absolutely just grind and get to that 2025. I can be where I want to be.
Cool. Okay. 2025. Are you traveling international? What are you doing with that free time?
That will probably be it will be in the States.
Okay.
Kind of what I want to do is load up the truck and start, and so it'd be January, so it'd be cold. So probably Florida,
Yeah.
and then every month be in a new state. And during the summer, head up to probably end up in Idaho, then December back in the south somewhere. So maybe halfway through it, if I don't like it, I'll quit. Like it's
Yeah.
basically do what I want at that point.
Yeah. Turn into a snowbird, man. Just live in a perpetual sunny weather. Get out of the winter. I've been thinking about doing that, but just changing hemispheres. So like, okay, well, hey, when it's winter here, I'm gonna go down to the southern hemisphere and always be in summer. I thought that would be kind of cool. You should talk to, I don't know if you saw this, but maybe you did, Cole inside the chat. He's essentially doing something similar. He just picked up a little camper on the back of his truck and it's creating a mobile office. And nowadays with Starlink, it's crazy. Like Rylan was out in Mount Shasta like a month or two ago. His mom works with him and they're out by the river just doing deals with Starlink. It's so crazy to me. That's super cool, man. Well, let's talk about areas that we can assist in. Like, what are the bottlenecks from you hitting 100K this year? What are the bottlenecks from you getting to 250? And frankly, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. So there might be stuff that I'll kind of chime in where I might see gaps. What do you think in your words?
I would say the biggest thing is getting my mailers to like the last 5,000 didn't do great. But I think it was some the verbiage I put in the contract, and then the price a little too low. So I feel like raising the price a little bit, you can always renegotiate if it's wrong. And I hit the whole county, so like some of the pricings are going to be wrong, but I do not have time. I mean, I would rather send 1,000 extra mailers,
Yeah,
and get some of them wrong as long as most of them are right.
yeah, yeah. So I forget what the saying is. Like constraints is like the mother of ingenuity or something like that. But when you literally have constraints in your life, you just know where to cut corners where it doesn't really matter in the areas that do actually matter. So just out of curiosity, for the marketing side of things, you said you're mailing pretty much entire counties. You use like an acreage range filter for that?
I do sometimes. Sometimes I just hit. It depends how much time I have. Sometimes I just hit 5 to 100 acres. I should definitely do a little better on that. Like try to hit the 10 to 20s.
Yeah.
And like 20 to 40, or from what I've seen, like the 5 to 10s are usually pretty same. 10 to 20s, and then 20 to 40. Those breakdowns are usually pretty consistent.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So what I would say, and this is like obvious, but it is important to say, like a lot of times when I try to fix things in my business, I usually make it worse, I've discovered. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to make an improvement to our letter or whatever it may be. Rarely does it actually work better. Sometimes it does, but it's definitely the minority of times. So when I do make changes, everything has to have a test period before it's allowed to go to scale. So if I want to make changes to my offer letters, it's going to be a really small sample, just to test that I totally fucked this up. Because I know more times than not I'm going to. And if, hey, it's green light, then cool. Now we can run with that and send more mail behind it. So that's just one thing I would recommend. If you are making changes, just do it in small batches. In terms of like the side on marketing, I would definitely chunk those down. Obviously, you can have a much easier time. What I would recommend, though, since you don't really have time of doing that yourself, and the business has proven itself, and you've got some money in the bank, a huge return for you is going to be getting someone to go and do that work for you. You can train a VA in 2 weekends. Probably costs you $6 to $7 an hour, and all they'll do is you'll say, hey, I want 5 to 100 acres in X, Y, and Z county. Chunk this down. So they'll go and grab all the Redfin data or wherever you're going to grab it from, and they'll just bucket it down for you. And so you can come in and you can say, hey, 5 to 10 is cool. This is the median. There's the average. How's like the low to high? I just give you all of it on a dashboard or a spreadsheet. And you're at a point right now where like there will be other bottlenecks, but your only bottleneck right now is just not sending enough mail, right? And so it's pretty unrealistic that you're going to have the time to go and get better at mail and send more mail. So have a VA help with that and then scale your mail. You're sending about 5,000 a month. Is that right? Or less?
Yeah, 5,000 now. Yeah.
Okay. So 5,000 a month, if you're good at mail, 5,000 a month, you can definitely make 100K for sure. The thing that people don't really like is that it's going to be very lumpy. So 5,000 mailers, some months you're going to get a deal, some months you'll get 5 deals. Very, very lumpy. And that can be kind of annoying. So as you mail more, like you're going to get a much more consistent rhythm in terms of expectations in your business. Mailers can hit in some counties and they just totally flatline in the other ones. I think like the North Star for most folks is like as a solo operator with no team, 10,000 mailers is kind of the threshold of what you can maintain. Once you get there, I'd add Pat Live, and you can run with that for a long time, for a very, very long time. And so really all you're doing at that point is you're just going and selecting the markets, giving that to the VA. They're doing the pricing analysis. You're just giving the final say on adding those prices. You're mailing it out. You have Pat Live take that first call and you're following up with sellers. And then you're using realtors to move all of it. I mean, like really that is like the most nuts and bolts simple land business. And you can scale that to 300, 400K a year. I wish I knew that when I started. Man, I just overcomplicated everything to such an extreme degree. It's really that simple, though. What price point? It sounds like you're not dogmatic to price points. You're going 5 to 100. Do you get a lot of bigger price point stuff in your data sets or no?
I send them out, but I don't get a lot of leads from that. It's usually the 20 to 40,000 stuff is the leads I get back. So far, like no hits on the bigger acreage.
And are you scaling price, like your offer percentage, as you kind of go up into bigger ranges? Or are you going to offer a little bit more as a percentage?
I have not. That's
another thing I'd recommend, right? And this is what can be weird when you just get a spreadsheet that's 5 to 100. Like your mind can't really differentiate. So you're like, 50% on everything. But that should ratchet up as we go into the higher price point stuff. And that's like the easiest way to have a big land business with minimal time involvement and a small team is just going after more expensive stuff. Yeah, it takes more mail to do it, but that's about it. But we do have to compensate our offers for that. So like typically, if we're going after 6-figure plus stuff, I think 55 to 65% is a pretty fair place to be in. Now, that's not going to be where we buy the deal. We could buy it way less than that, but we got to get their attention. And so the lowball offers, they're just not even going to call you. And that's like really our premise with mailing is I always want to offer a little bit more than what I actually want to buy on it because I know I can work those leads. I have a much better shot to actually get the deal done when I'm talking to someone versus like the mail doing the heavy lifting for me. The other thing that you can experiment with too, are you using all blind offers right now?
Yes.
Okay. The other thing you can experiment with too is like if you are going after bigger stuff, 250,000 plus in your data sets pretty often, and you just feel like, I can't figure out pricing here, you can throw out a range on those. I think it fits a little bit better for that avatar of a seller. Like getting a blind offer on a really expensive property can be kind of off-putting. So using range offers there, and if you really wanted to get pretty savvy, you could even kind of differentiate your letters and have something that's a little different for each. And something we've been experimenting with. I can't say that we've kind of dialed it in perfectly, but we have to imagine the persona of a $10,000 property owner is way different than someone who owns $1 million property, right?
Yeah.
You're going to want to touch on different pain points. You might not have a purchase agreement there because that's just kind of weird, things like that. Have you been funding all of your own deals? Is that what I heard correctly?
So far I have, yeah.
So far, okay. That's the other thing, right? Is using other people's money. You'll quickly run out of money. And like those deals that you've done, yes, you could afford to fund them, but what would have happened instead of funding them? You put that money into mail. We'd probably be having a pretty different conversation right now, And so I think every dollar you have should go into mail and nothing else. Unless it's a very special property, you will come across deals that happen every couple of times a year that are like just freakish deals where you don't want to give up any equity in them. It's a 10 or 20x return. But again, that's a rarity. What other areas do you feel like are kind of the bottleneck currently?
Let's say like trying not to get like if you look at the United States is you have a huge area of counties to mail, like not get to like stay in your lane. Like right now I kind of dialed in that I'm only focusing on the 4 states surrounding me, like Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, like get those dialed in before I go too crazy, but still you see stuff like doing good in Texas and stuff like that. Like not get like trying to find the point of staying in your lane, but also am I staying in my lane too much and not hitting some of those states that are doing good?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean FOMO is definitely a real thing in this business. What I would say is I just let the data speak for it. So you don't have a huge sample size, but you've sold 6 deals. Do you, out of that, just off the top of your head, is there any area that's been the best performer for you, whether it's number of leads, number of contracts, total revenue?
Yeah, I have 2 areas that were definitely by
Okay.
far.
So usually, like, I think it's actually easier to kind of keep on working those places. And I think we have a roadblock that says, well, I just mailed it. Like, am I going to get more deals there? I know many folks in this business that make hundreds of thousands of dollars in a year in one market, and they just keep on hitting it, keep on hitting it, keep on hitting it. And it's super, super consistent too. We can have some expectations there. It's still lumpy, but like overall, over a year or quarter, we have a pretty clear idea what we're going to get. And what we do, like, so I used to work at the one job I had, I worked at a design agency. It's like for Fortune 500 companies. And so like they did like presentations for them and stuff like that. And we had a saying there called land and expand. And so that was the whole sales process. And so what we would do is we get our foot in the door with a Comcast or a big company. And instead of going and looking for another one of those, we would say internally, how many other divisions are there that we can also go land? Because we just land the finance division. What about the marketing division? What about the communications division? We just keep on doing that over and over again. So that's how I think about the marketing side of things. So it's like, cool, I killed it in this market. Well, what happens if I go to the 1 to 5 acres? Or what happens if I go to a different acreage range that I haven't touched? Or what happens if I go to an adjacent county? And like you were just kind of expanding around that. Usually good markets are surrounded by other good markets. Usually, not always. And you'll tell, the data will tell you if it's junk. And that just takes away, like, at that point, I'm trying, like, really what we want to do here is I want to have everything where it's binary. I want this business to be as black and white as possible, because you can quickly get into this paralysis analysis because there's too many fucking options. There's like endless options, right? And so I want the data to tell me, hey, Sumner, this state, this county, this zip code, whatever it may be, this is what's paying the bills. So keep on working that. I typically say you can remail quarterly. Like if we're remarketing, I think you could even do that more aggressively if you have a really good market and there's a lot of supply of land there. You could hit it more often. We used to work in a place in Colorado that had, I think it has like 150,000 vacant properties there, which is pretty crazy, all vacant land. Dude, you could mail that place every month. I mean, I was never even mailing the whole data set. So it's like we could just chunk that down every month and have plenty of leads coming through. What's the average size of your mailer nowadays?
It depends on the counties, like anywhere from 60 to, I hit one that was 1,700.
Okay, so not huge, pretty normal sizes. Are you stacking any additional filters on it beyond acreage ranges?
I did at first, and that was when I was getting the better results. Like at first, I only did out of state owners, but now I'm like basically 3 years plus ownership, and that's it. But I feel like maybe I should add at least out of county owners.
I don't know, man. I there's two different points of view here, and I think if you're really using a lean marketing budget, put your eggs in as many baskets and let's get the most aggressive filtering we can. But going back to what we were saying with that land and expand concept, but we just mail everyone, because if it's a good market, I want to be involved. And we get people that just inherited the property 3 months ago, and if I remove that on a 3-year basis, I don't catch them. So like, I think minimal filters usually works the best in my opinion. You just don't know the situation that people are in, even if they just bought it. We get people that sell to us and they bought it 2 years ago. You really never know. So I'm not a big out of county, out of state guy, or filtering anything else on top of that.
Gotcha. So just keep mailing them out.
Just keep mailing it, man. I want all that data, because yes, if we looked at it on a spreadsheet, the yield that we're going to get from out of state and out of county is better. But there's only so many good markets where you understand pricing. So let's say out of county, I'm getting a deal for every 2,000 letters, and in county, I'm getting one for every 3,000 letters. Big whoop. I'm still making money, and I know the pricing there, and I know it's a good market. So usually one or the other. Hey, I know the pricing, but I'm not sure if it's a good market, or vice versa. But when you know both, you've got gold on your hand, especially when you've done deals there. Dude, that's the best data. That's how we come in and crush the competition, because they're pricing off of old Redfin comps, and I've done deals in that subdivision. I know it better than anyone else. That's why, like, the guys in the group, like Ari or Michael Bull, these folks that are really focused on subdivisions, it's so easy for them, because like once you do one deal on subdivision, everything else kind of falls in line. It's very, very simple. And that's a huge value, because the time for them to price out mailers and market is not much. So yeah, man, I'm a big fan of reusing markets, reusing data, and just continuing to work it. There's also a slight savings on data costs, because we can reuse that data set typically for like a year. What other issues in the business? What else can we unpack here?
I would say like basically get the like pricing? Like, what do you do as far as like, are you looking at 50% of the, let's say for like under 50,000, or you just throw it at 50%? Because I was at a 40, then I was doing good, so I dropped it down to 35, and then went up to cap. So like, uh,
Yeah.
so I think it was overthinking that way too much, and like kind of the thing of what when it's if it's not broke, why fix it? And I literally changed like 3 or 4 different stuff on the whole system, like added to the mailer,
Yeah.
the contract. So like I feel like the dumb thing was first, like you said, not doing small sample size, and only doing one thing. I did like 4 stuff. Now I'm saying,
Yeah. Right.
which
Right.
one of the 4 was it? Like,
Yeah. 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 That's a good point. We want to make one change at a time. Um, Dude, the pricing stuff is so funny because both alternatives work. You can send a crap ton of mail at low prices and eventually get deals, or you can do the inverse. As you know, I'm a fan of getting the lead and then working it from there. So there is a relationship to how much demand there is in a market versus how competitive we have to be in pricing. So even if it's a $50,000 property, if it's, I don't know, on the outskirts of Austin and land's flying off the shelves in days, I can't really offer that standard 50%. I might have to come up a little bit more on that. I would say if I generalize here for like whatever, 10,000 to 100,000 or somewhere in that bracket, we're typically 50 to 55%, somewhere in that range. And then as we start getting up in the 6-figure range, 60, 65%, stuff like that. And if we start getting into like really, really big properties, we're typically not even putting a price on that. And the conversation is going to be way different. We're typically not talking about a flat out cash offer. Like we have a deal right now that we're working in Texas. It's 120 acres right outside of Dallas. And instead of giving him a cash offer, we said, hey, we got 2 options. We'll give you owner financing terms, 10% down, 5 to 7% interest, 5-year balloon, 20-year AM, or we'll give you $2,000 more an acre than what you wanted on the cash price. So you'll get an extra like almost $250,000 in a bonus if we can partner together. And so you get paid out that basis that you want, which in this case is $30,000 an acre. We go do all of our work. There's probably about 20K of spread in that deal per acre, and we get paid that way. So like the conversations are just so different on those bigger properties. But yeah, I would say somewhere in that wheelhouse. I think the thing that matters more than offer percentages, because like, dude, you're off. The offer percentage doesn't really matter if you don't know what land is worth. You know what I mean? And so you might be offering 50%, but your assumption of what it's worth is way off. So you're actually offering 20% because we just misread it so much. And so like offer percentage seems like it really matters if we had perfect and complete information, but we don't. So I think the variable that's been more important to me is what is the delta from the low to high price. So if I'm going looking at 5 to 10 acres and I'm saying, hey, it trades between 10,000 an acre and 40,000 an acre, that's going to be so hard to price, really difficult to be accurate, to the point where I might have to use a range offer or something like that in that case. But that same example, it's 10 to 15,000 an acre. That's money. So that's really what I look for beyond offer percentages. I really want to find that there's areas where pricing is really grouped. There's not big spreads there. And the other thing on top of that is there needs to be enough data for it to be valid. So if there's 4 comps for the 5 to 10 acres, it just doesn't tell me much. You know what I mean? And you can still make that work. You can still look at like on market comps and piece some things together, but it's still just, it's tough. Right. And so that's, again, like when you crack that code and you find a market that meets all those requirements, dude, just keep on hitting it, you know? Do you track that? Do you look at that stuff like the delta low to high and stuff like that when you're looking at pricing?
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Like I got that. What's it called? The pebble extension thing.
Yeah.
I like
Great
that.
tool.
But yeah, like a lot of like I'm doing some very rural West Virginia. Like there might be 10 properties sold in the last year,
Yeah.
but there's also like 2 properties listed. So like it's the stuff selling, but there's
Yeah.
also not a lot of data. And then like to price it out, it's hard.
Yeah.
But I have a local realtor in the area that's very knowledgeable. If I get a lead, to know what I can get for it, but then like there's not much data to get the price right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's one of those things where he can help comp it out once you have the deal, but he's not going to help comp the mailer, you know. I
right.
typically just avoid those markets entirely, even though the ratio looks crazy, 2 on market, 10 sold. I just know it's too thin for me. And so that's why we kind of have that rule. Like I typically, for us, most of the markets we work in from a county level, 50 to 250 for supply. You can go lower than that, which is what I like. But I typically don't go under like 20, 25 active listings. Because that sell-through rate just looks crazy. It's probably not as good as it actually looks. But more than anything, I just don't have much to lean on for pricing. Typically, sometimes there's markets that have little supply and tons of sold comps, but as you know, it's kind of a rarity. So yeah, man, I'm a big fan of making sure there's enough data there and making sure that delta low to high isn't too high. And if you do get in areas where it is really high, I'm probably going to have to pivot and use a range offer there. If I want to be accurate, and I don't want to spend oodles of time trying to perfect it. The other thing though is if you get into that situation, like the one trick pony of just pricing out counties, sometimes we also got to pivot that and say, this is not going to work here. So what could work? Well, can I chunk this down? Is there zip codes that are kind of clean in unison, or can I break it down visually and create a polygon or subdivisions? Have you done anything else besides just mailing?
I have
Okay.
like the way I look at it, and like my time that I have to spend, like I have to get mailers out.
Yeah.
And it was working at start. I was like, well, who cares if like I was getting enough deals out of it. But now I'm like the last 5,000 bombs. I'm like, maybe I have to dial it in more. One thing I really like that I think it was Ryland said about the people that like, you have three different type of people that send mailers. So you have the analytic ones that get it down and like they do the sniper approach and they get everything right. Like that's not me. And then you have the approach of like a little more data, but not as much as the analytics. But then you got the ones that just send it. And that was kind of at first I was in the middle there. And after that, I was like, well, I'm just going to send it. Well, no, maybe it's not that great. So maybe that doesn't work either. So,
I think like most things in life is like the truth is somewhere in the middle, like I think being that middle person, not so far where you're over analyzing, but we it has to be grounded in reality. I've told this story before, but I met two dudes at an event last year and they were brand new to land. They had lots of money. They owned an e-commerce business. And they were just like, dude, we don't even look at anything. We just go and grab the data and we just mail them. We just send out, hundreds of thousands of neutral letters, or we try to apply a price and just kind of fingers crossed, hope it's right. And they're still making money. It's still profitable, but they had a war chest of money. And if we look at our numbers, I mean, we're going to be way more efficient. So it's like the input does matter, but also it's like the efficiency of the machine, I think, is important as well. You just kind of trying to find that happy medium between the two. It would be an interesting case study for you just to compare and contrast, though. Like for your next few mailers, let's say you send 5,000 mailers this month or next month. Just say, hey, out of that 5,000, I'm going to take 1,000 and I am going to try to be a sniper on them. It's probably comprised of 2, 3, 4 subdivisions and just compare and contrast the differences. Yeah, you're not going to be able to get out the total volume that you might be used to. It might take you a little more time, but the results could very well be worth it. And just test that business model. I'm not saying that's who you want to be, but you've kind of pivoted or you've gone so far to one side of just being like this just send it guy. Try that and see what happens. And the thing is, too, like you can train other people to do that for you. Same thing with the VA. You can have them say, hey, go into this county, find all the subdivisions for me. And so it is doable. It's probably not going to be you to do it. But I think for where you're at, dude, you've got a proof of concept. You've got a little bit of a capital from the business. Hey, say I'm going to take $5,000 out of that 51,000 that I made, and I'm investing that into a VA that's going to go and pick markets for me, pick subdivisions or price markets. It's money well spent. I think you also like as a business owner, dude, you probably know this in your roofing business, but at a certain point, you've got to raise your hand and say, hey, I suck at this thing. I need someone else to help me and compensate. I'm definitely not the data guy. I like numbers, I like data, but I'm not the one to go with it with a fine tooth comb. So I need people that are complementary to me. You might need the same here. And the cool thing is because this business, if like you can learn it, anyone else can learn it. So it's really just a question like, can you find someone that's trainable and you can teach them what you know and they can run with it? And we can use labor, and some people disagree with this and say it's unethical, but you can use really cheap labor overseas. And I think that's okay. I think in their economy, what they're making is justified. If you came in and paid them a US salary, you'd kind of fuck up their economy. So like pay them what's standard there, and you can have a huge arbitrage. So you can go on onlinejobs.ph. You could go use a VPN and go on to like Indeed or whatever in that country and find tons of folks that are really qualified to do this. And it's a part-time role, 10 hours a week for them.
And I think that like I would actually, because I suck at gathering data, but I love to look at data. Like
me too. I'm the same way. I love looking at data. I don't like gathering it though.
But going through Redfin and scraping stuff, trying to forget all that stuff, that's not for me. I hate that stuff. So yeah, I could see that having a VA doing that, and then I could just look at the numbers. Like that's fun. So
Yeah.
for
Yeah, I'm
sure.
the same way. I say I love data. I just love interpreting data. I hate to be the one to actually go and fetch the data. And again, that's super trainable. That's I'm telling you, that is 2 weekends of your time. We do a lot of our training on weekends, so it doesn't interrupt with the work week. Saturday, Sunday, you could train them, do it twice, and they'll be good to go.
Cool.
So that's what I would advise to you. What about on the acquisition side? You feel like you've got a pretty good footing with working with sellers and stuff?
I do pretty good. I mean, I'm not a hard seller, like not a hard closer. Like I kind of look at it like the roofing business. I've done sales for a couple years already. I
Mhm.
tried wholesaling back in the day, and so that's where I kind of learned how not to sell, or I sucked at it back then. So I learned a lot through that. Um, but yeah, I keep it pretty simple. Like, try to get their pain points, figure out why they're selling, and you know, like build rapport, but not be the aggressive sales guy at all. Um,
What happens when a lead says, "Hey, Brian, I might be interested in selling, but now's not the time. What are you doing next?"
uh, Follow up within a month or so.
Okay. And how are you keeping track of all those follow-ups?
It's right here.
Do you have a Gmail account?
I do, yeah.
Okay. What I'd recommend, this is free also. Use the Google Calendar, whatever calendar software you use, and just go set a calendar invite for yourself, whatever the time frame that's going to be. And you can even, one of the easy things you can do is you can make it a recurring invite. So you can say, hey, I want to follow up with this lead in a 30-day period or a 14-day period. So recur this invite, and just I get a notification on my phone that says, hey, call Bill. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just do it. Because even if it's in, like, I'm a big notebook guy too, but even if it's in the notebook, there's no telling I'm going to remember to look at that page or go and find it. Um, when you want to start kind of getting the best yield from your mailers and really you want to start getting the good deals, it's just all in the follow up. Like it really is. It's the name of the game. And that's why like you need people to help run this business, because at a certain point you just can't do everything. But if you don't, even as a solo operator, if you don't have a system for following up, you're leaving a lot of money on the table.
No, I do agree. And actually, three of my deals are from follow up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, there's so much into the follow up. I agree. And like, yeah, the notebooks, like it is not reminding me when like, I keep a mental note in the head, but you can only keep maybe 5 to 10 leads in your
Yeah.
head. You have to call back. But
Yeah. Yeah. It's the name of the game, man. Any other questions? Anything else I can help with? Sounds
yeah,
like you.
what's
Yeah.
your opinion on as far as like what's going to happen with land when there's a recession? What's your opinion on land? Like, is it going to get oversaturated? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I definitely don't want to claim to have a crystal ball or know it all, but here's
well,
just
we're
here's
going to
here's
hold you to it, to whatever you tell us.
yeah, yeah. If shit hits the fan, don't hold me to this. But here's my thinking. I think that like within land, there's so many little sub niches. I think those sub niches get affected slightly differently. I really am a big believer that yeah, there's definitely going to be a downtick for sure. Like that's going to be real. And I think we've already felt that. Like you weren't in this business 2 years ago, but this business looks so different than it looked 2 years ago. And in fact, in the kind of fall of winter last year, it took me a second to kind of catch up to what was going on. Things changed, right? And so markets that were performing really well for us, deals were taking 3 times as long to sell there. Yet I was still buying deals there. I just didn't realize that like, oh, I hadn't caught up to what's happening. And so I think in the land business, as a recession comes, different sub niches get affected differently and different markets get affected differently. At the end of the day, this is all a local game. There will still be markets where there's so much it's just like macro demand, like job growth, new home build. Like there's just so much going on there that even a recession can't pull that back completely, where people are still going to be buying land, and land could even still slightly appreciate in some of those markets or flatline. But if you look at like the 2008 recession, like where I'm at right now in Las Vegas or parts of Phoenix, decimated, destroyed. You did not want to be buying land. They're like done. In fact, that's why new home builders stopped entitling land themselves, because they got smoked so hard in those more speculative markets. So I think it's where it becomes like really important to understand that the data that you're using always has some level of latency to it. So if the market's changing and I'm saying, well, this is a great market over the last 12 months because here's the stats, it might not be a great market anymore. There's not much we can always do with that, but there's some things we can do. Obviously, looking at real-time data under contract, looking at properties that are listed, are they stair stepping the price down? What are the days on markets for those properties? You can call realtors. Realtors have a great kind of finger on the pulse. Even if they're like the deal flow of how much they're selling hasn't changed, they could tell you, well, inbound lead flow is a little different, or the conversations look different, or everyone's coming in and making much more aggressive offers. Last year, when the economy really shifted, like from summer to fall, I noticed that we started getting really aggressive offers from buyers. Like we were getting like 100% of list price or slightly over list price a year prior. And now we have folks coming in offering us 60 or 70%. But the data online hadn't caught up to that. And so now I know if I go work back in that market, I'm not underwriting off the price that I listed that. I'm underwriting on the price I'm getting offers at, but data is not going to tell me that there. So the data you have is super relevant too. And that just takes work. Like, that's all, a lot of that's kind of manual stuff, and it's not easy to, like, you're not going to get like an easy answer online that's going to tell you that. So yeah, I think that in this business, you can really weather any storm. And I just think you have to be smart about it. The other thing that I think about is, like, if I got stuck with this property, would this be an asset I'd be happy to hold for a long time? So if I'm buying a junk half-acre lot with a trailer on it and trash on it and a terrible subdivision, dude, I wouldn't want to own that thing. Heck no. But when I'm buying that 120 acres outside of Dallas, I'll hold that thing for 20 years. No problem. I know it's a good property. It's in the path of progress. It's a nice property. It's got utilities. That thing's always going to be desirable. That's why I'm so bullish on the rural recreational stuff. Is like, there's real like intrinsic value to it. A property that has a river and trees and you can drill a well on it, like, that will always be in demand. And what we saw during COVID, this is different than a recession, but what we saw in COVID was like everyone flocked to those properties. When there's like scariness in the world and people don't know what's going to come next, the idea of being self-sufficient becomes really appealing, I think. And so, like, let's say, heaven forbid, we got into World War III and shit really hit the fan. There's still going to be buyers for rural recreational land for sure. But there's definitely like a quality gradient. Not all rural recreational properties are good. And that's why, like, the stuff that we do on market selection seems so hyper specific and annoyingly analytical, but it's because that shit really does matter. And this is very much a local thing. Now, on the front of competition, this is a great question as well. I think we've got a long ways until this business looks like wholesaling. It looks like fix and flipping. And the amazing thing is, even in those businesses, you can still go and get deals. What's the difference? Well, like, the barrier, the threshold to get a deal is just a little harder. And so, like, in this business, you could come in and not know anything and send out some mail, maybe get lucky. But you can't send out some mail and get a wholesale deal typically. But I know plenty of folks that joined LIA that were wholesaling 6 months ago, and they were making money. But it was a question of, like, is the amount of work that I'm putting into this worth how much I'm making? But you can still go and get deals. So I think we are still a long ways away from that in the land business. The land business has some things kind of working for it and against it to some extent. One, because the data is so crappy in land, it's going to scare off or confuse a lot of people. So when someone comes in, they're like, wait, I can't get an easy answer and underwrite this property like I could a house. That just seems weird. And they're kind of out on that. I think it just scares off a lot of folks, or they go and make one bad buy because they didn't underwrite it correctly and they get smoked and they're done. I know a lot of folks that come into this business, they try to do it, they pack up shop and say, I'm done, I'm out of here. It's just too confusing, or they got burned. And so if there is like a real skill component to land in terms of knowing the specifics of underwriting these properties and knowing the markets and things like that. I get deals sent to me pretty often from folks that are like, dude, let's partner on this. I think it's an amazing deal. I'm like, dude, this is a landlocked 40 acre with like a power line running through the middle of it. Like, you think this is a good deal? It's scary, honestly. So there's a lot of that going on. And then I think beyond that, though, it's like I said before, the wholesaling and stuff. Like, if you look at a wholesaler business nowadays, dude, those guys are slick with it. Like, their systems are so dialed in. There's no room for being sloppy. In this business, there's like a sloppy indicator that shows you how uncompetitive this is, because you can be sloppy and still make money. That's crazy to me. I think that's going to last a while longer. Call it 5 years, 10 years, and this business will still be viable. It just will continue to get a little bit harder. And so I think right now it's like, if you're watching this video, we are still at the ground floor. This business is still very, very, very early. And the truth is, land investing has been around for like over 100 years. Like, guys have been doing this for a long time. Not to the same capacity of how we do it with mail and stuff like that, but the general idea has been here for a long time. So like for me, like what the way I think about it is, like, more times than not, I think you initially feel competition on the disposition side. So what happens? Well, a market becomes saturated with active listings. There's not enough buyers to turn it over. So then you got to jump to a different market. Like 3 years ago, I thought the land business was saturated because I was working in Costilla County. It just turns out that there's 500 listings and there's 20 buyers a month. I moved to a different county. The business works perfectly fine. And so, like, there are markets that are just going to get saturated with supply. There's also marketing channels for dispositions that will get saturated supply, like land.com, landflip, Facebook. Those areas look a lot different than they did a couple of years ago, just in terms of how much supply is listed on there. So I think it's where you feel the effects initially, and then I think you start to feel the effects on some of the acquisition marketing channels, and then maybe something you feel the effects on some of the strategies. Eventually, that's like very very high level. Like maybe eventually the market becomes so efficient that just buying it and flipping it's less of a thing. So now you have to have a value add strategy. But dude, I'm saying we're like 10, 15, 20 years away. That's a long ways away. The cool thing about this business, unlike most fix and flippers or wholesalers, is like they are stuck in the area that they live in. We don't have that problem in land. That's really cool to me. Here's the thing that I've been thinking about for a long time. I've been thinking about this since I got into the business, and it's not something that I want to do now, but I love the idea. So finding countries that have great land ownership laws, not every country does, and finding countries that either have like good marketing laws, like they don't have a ton of privacy policies, or there's a good postal system and you can get people's addresses. You could replicate this in different countries. And even if you don't want to do that, you can still, other countries' MLS or public listings are nowhere near as saturated as the US. So I'm going to Costa Rica next week. In Costa Rica, there's no off market. It's all on market. It's all cash transactions. There's no debt. That's already a barrier to entry right there. And everything's negotiable. You go see something that's listed, you get it half off by negotiating the thing. And then people are doing subdivides out there or cool stuff with it. And so like this business works pretty much everywhere. We're just lucky in the US because great postal system, a lot of data. It's all public information. That's not true in a lot of countries. So dude, we're a long fucking away from competition. But I still think that like we have to be sharp. Like I don't like to, this is how I think about it. I don't want to hyper fixate on competition because I think frankly it's just a waste of time. But I also want to understand that I have to get better. Even if the getting is good right now, I still have to continue to improve. You know what I mean? I think you should feel that no matter what. Like that's just kind of a human urge is to get better. But that will keep you sharp, man. So anyone that's watching this video, anyone that's inside LIA, anyone that's here, like you still have a long time. There is still very much a gold rush in this business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And like it's so much different than, like I said, I tried wholesaling, and like if you send out 2,000 mailers, you're not getting a deal on a house unless you get crazy lucky. Like in the land, you can send out 2,000 mailers, and there's a good chance you get a deal or at least a couple new leads. So
yeah,
it's
that's the other thing too is like there's just way more supply of land too. So in theory, could we handle more participants than houses? Maybe because there's just way more. There's billions of acres in the U.S. Like maybe we could handle more as well. And we're not even remotely close to how many players there are in houses. I've always wondered how many land investors are there really out there. I don't know. I've heard people throw numbers around. What I do know, there's very few big players. There's very, very few folks that are really doing this at a high level. Like I could probably write them down in a journal, and there's probably 50 people I could come up with. There's probably a couple thousand participants, and they're like wishy-washy at best. And that's the funny thing is like so much of the marketing out there to prospective new land investors is like side hustle, passive income. This is easy. Dip your toe in the water, and those people just get steamrolled, and they do it for a little bit, and then they're gone. You can look at any industry. I love doing this. Like anytime I start to get the jitters about competition, I look at like drop shipping or wholesaling, or whatever these like saturated industries are, and there's still people killing it. It's like at a certain point, there is a skill component. Like if you're a great operator and a great entrepreneur, you'll thrive in any industry, I think. So, dude, I wouldn't get hung up on it. What was funny is when I first got involved, I thought I had like just discovered this unknown niche, and so I was so scared that like tomorrow was going to disappear. And of course, that hasn't happened. I was scared to ever talk about this stuff publicly. Of like, what if someone comes and takes this from me? I don't think it's a reality. The one thing that I do worry about is kind of like a more near term threat are laws changing around marketing. That does concern me. All this privacy stuff nowadays with Facebook and ads and stuff like that's getting more and more strict, and that's certainly happening to text messaging. That happens to ringless voicemail. It's happening to cold calling. It could happen to mail. That's a little scary. The good thing that we have working in our favor is that there's so many big companies that use direct mail for marketing, Chase, like all these big credit card companies and whatnot, that they would go and lobby to make sure those laws never change. But text messaging or ringless voicemail is not the case. That's why text messaging is okay to me, but like ringless voicemail and stuff, just don't go there. It's just a line too far. It's so in the gray.
Yeah, you can get a lot of hot water on the ringless voicemails for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
like, it just doesn't even seem worth it to me, you know?
no, not at all.
Yeah.
But
What,
yeah,
what else? What else you got for me, man? Any more questions?
I think that kind of all the questions I had. Like you said, it's the like I've had a couple different businesses, and I never like for 4 hours a week for what time I put in and the return on investment, like it's just insane. Like,
Yeah, that's ridiculous, man. And this is in your first year. Like you got to realize there's kind of an ignorance tax that gets placed on you as a new land investor. So like how many businesses are there out there where you start year 1 or year 2 and you just don't make anything because you suck at it? You can be bad at this business and still make money. That's insane. And that tells me that, like, again, competition is a far, far, far way issue. What would you say as like a words of encouragement to someone that they're watching this video now or they're watching it later is thinking about getting into land? And what would be your biggest tip if you had one?
so I would say it's all a numbers game. Like, don't do anything but send mail at first. Like, don't spend money on anything else. Like, don't
Yeah.
waste your time cold calling. Just send mail.
Yeah.
And like, no matter how bad your mailers are, you will get the deal eventually.
You will.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. It is definitely a numbers game, and it's also a game of like getting offers in front of people. So it's like, yes, we do have to hit a certain quantity for getting mail out there, but that's why I'm so bullish on everyone putting a price on their letter because those will go do the little work for you. And some people will raise their hand and they say, yeah, don't go drop 2,000, 3,000 neutral letters. You're just going to create a shit ton of work for yourself, and you're probably not good enough to negotiate those deals down or lock them up. So quantity, and make sure they all have a price attached to them, and you'll be golden.
if you're just getting started and you send out neutral letters, you're going to have to be a salesman. If you don't,
Yeah, yeah.
like the one deal I got back, they sent the letter back. I never talked to them.
Yep.
Also, like, you might not even have to do any sales. So
Yeah, we've probably done 100+ deals like that. We don't really do those anymore because I think they can cause issues. Like there can be disconnects and expectations and stuff like that. So we always touch base with them, but it's crazy, man. People just sign it and you go make whatever 20, 30 grand on it. Never speak to them.
yeah,
It's super interesting, man. Super interesting. Well, dude, I appreciate the time here today. This has been fun. Hopefully it's been valuable for you on some level. I think the roadmap for you is pretty damn straightforward. I think you need to compensate for the areas that you have a deficit. We all have deficits. So just be like, yo, this is where I don't want to do it, or this is where I'm not good at it, and get some support. Dude, I've hired so many people that are like interns or friends of friends or like sibling. You can also get creative. Just like who's in my vicinity that wants to make $100 a week and just like is cool grinding on the stuff, or you can go overseas. It sounds like kind of chunking down your mailers, being a little more analytical. We don't want to go too far with it, but I think there's definitely some slippage there. I think like
sure.
while your numbers are good right now, I think if we went and 10x your numbers or 10x the mail, those numbers would slide down. I think there's a little bit of good luck in that. You know what I mean? In terms of having a pretty damn good yield, even though we're taking a really wide approach for our marketing. So drilling down a little bit and then eventually just pushing more mail through the system. Like I would love to revisit this conversation. And in January, you're chipping away at 7,500 or 10,000 mailers a month. And if you can hold that pace next year and you have systems for following up with leads, 250K will be a cakewalk. No problem. Caveat is you're not self-funding those deals too.
Yeah, well, I might try, but
Yeah,
no,
well, we'll see.
I like I have the roofing company with pretty good income, so I can fund a lot. But yeah, I do have to stop funding as much.
Yeah.
My own deal for sure.
Just out of curiosity for myself, is there any ambition to like take some of this cash flow and put it like into more long-term assets?
Yeah, for sure. Like I have 60 rentals right now, so
60?
like, yeah, so I have the base. Like I
Bro,
just
what? You have 60 rentals?
yeah.
That's crazy. Are they all a blend of houses, apartments, and what's the makeup on that?
That is, I think, 35, about 40 mobile home lots, and then the rest are houses or small multifamilies.
Dude, you don't have to share specific numbers, but like I've always wondered, like with 60 rentals, you could live off that forever, right? The cash flow or no?
Yeah, I'm probably making between 6 to 7,000 a month off that.
Still awesome, man.
Yeah, you could, but not the lifestyle I want.
Right.
Uh,
But if someone wanted, I know you've done that over a long time. If someone wanted to go build a portfolio like that, like realistically, how much capital of their own do you think they need to put into it?
I mean, you can always. I mean, there's a lot of people doing like the syndications or
Yeah.
like lending private money. But dude, if you most of these I bought before COVID. Like I bought everything I could back then. I was putting all my own money in there. But it is such like back then you could get stuff that cash flows. Now you can still get deals, but you got to work for them.
You do.
And with the high interest rates, what I would tell people, go build a land business and then go buy
Yeah.
now, because it's hard to get into cash flow right now.
Yeah, for sure. No, interest rates are crazy. Do you have any that you're doing owner financing on with the sellers?
I have one that a small mobile home park that I bought that the seller's financing that thing.
Wow.
So
Were those all picked up on market?
most of the mobile home parks I actually bought on auctions. I
Oh,
did
wow.
really good on those. Like if that's just everybody thinks mobile homes are shitholes,
Yeah.
and so they were cheap. So I bought them. And what's cool about the mobile homes is I sell all the homes off, and I just own the lots.
Mhm.
So you don't have any maintenance. You get the monthly lot rent. Usually, like in our area, it's around $300 a month. So that's where I make a lot of money.
Easy. Yeah. That's so cool, man. I've always been fascinated by mobile home parks. Um, how much time do you spend a month? Do you self-manage all this?
No, I have a property manager, and I spend maybe an hour or two a month on those.
Wow, dude. This is what I'm trying to create. Damn, that is awesome.
The key thing is get a great property manager. Like my
Yeah.
property manager I could leave for 20 years and I have zero concerns about about my property. I'm,
That's so cool.
yeah, I'm spoiled because a lot of people have horror stories about property managers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Is it all local to you? All in Ohio?
um, most of it is in Ohio. I got a couple small trailer parks down in West Virginia.
Do you think it's too crazy to like manage or own a mobile home park out of state, or is that pretty doable?
No, that's definitely doable. The main thing is, again, good management.
Okay. Dude, that is so cool. If I wanted to get involved in mobile home parks, what do you think? Just send out mail? What's the playbook you'd recommend?
That's a good question because I've never market, but I think, yeah, sending out mail would be great. Another thing that I think would be cool, um, but that's probably too much stress, is like just mailing, like, land. A lot of them, mobile homes don't show up. If
Mhm.
you buy a single mobile home on 2 acres, you sell the mobile home to someone and just rent it. If they live there for 30 years, you get lot rent for a long time. But
Smart. Just renting out the singular property with one lot on it.
yeah, but the only problem with that is, let's say you own one in Kentucky, one in West Virginia, you have to a lot of different. All of a sudden, you're the one that's collecting that payment, and dealing with
Yeah.
that stuff. So I think you'd be better off just buying a whole park. Um,
Dude, it's so funny. I did exactly what you're saying. I've technically owned one mobile home lot. I bought a 2 acre in Llano County, Texas. I bought it for 1,800, which is hilarious. And I was renting it for, I forget, 300, $400 a month, something like that. And I ended up having to sell it because the guy that was living on it was like dumping the septic system into the neighbor's yard. So gross. And so she like lost her mind. They were trying to litigate, and I ended up selling it to her, and she kicked the guy off. Um, dude, that is so interesting, man. What would you say is like, again, these are tough questions to answer. It's like when people ask me, like, how much can I make in land? I'm like, dude, it varies so much. But what would you say a realistic like cash on cash return is? Like if I had call it 500 grand that I wanted to put into mobile home parks this year, like what would I expect in terms of return?
oh, dude, cash on cash, I don't go off those numbers. Like I'm looking at cap rate for when I buy
Okay.
them.
Okay.
Like a good cap rate, like right now, the bigger mobile homes, some people are buying them at 5.6 cap, which is crazy. But I try to buy them like at a 10. I mean, you know what I mean by a cap rate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I try to buy them at a 10 and get them up to 12 or higher.
Okay.
Some of the crazy ones down in West Virginia, I got like 18-20% cap rate. Like that's insane.
Wow, that is insane, dude. Are those your best performing ones?
Oh, by far. Yeah.
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 Are you actively looking for more, or is it just like, hey, when they come up, they come up?
If I if it's a great deal, yeah, I'd buy them, but I'm not buying at an 8 to 10 cap right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
would be, but I think like if you don't care to, like, a lot of the mobile home park people that are buying them are looking for like 20 units or above. They don't want to do
Mhm.
the small stuff. So I think the niche market to go find great deals is like the ones between 5 and 15.
Oh,
All the big players don't want the small ones like that. But that's when you get back to the let's like if you're all over the U.S., you have to
yeah.
have a good property manager at every one.
Yep.
So it all depends on how hands-on you want to be, but that would definitely um, be a niche that you could find some great deals in.
Yeah. Um, I've heard mixed stuff here. Is this true? You can't create new mobile home parks? Is that real or no?
I think you can, but there is so much zoning that it depends on the states, but there's so
Okay.
much zoning and stuff that you have to go through. It's crazy.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's definitely piqued my interest. That is super, super interesting. I've been for years looking for like what is the asset class that I want to kind of park some of this money into. And of course, like all the usual stuff, small multifamily, and like, hey, it's all interesting to me. But I've always liked the weird stuff. Like my self storage obviously is amazing, but like RV boat and storage, or like RV parks or mobile home parks, it's always been really fascinating to me. Well, damn, dude, if I come across any deals, I'll have to let you know.
Yeah, for sure. What if you would be buying if like all your different options, are you looking for something that's like very hands off, or are you like do you want to deal with like maintenance crap or like that's what I like about mobile homes because I still all plug home and I just have to take care of the infrastructure. So like
Yeah.
you can be looking for.
I think that the infrastructure situation is definitely what's most appealing to me. So like just collecting lot rent, maybe changing out septic every couple of years, like just like doing some improvements to the land, but pretty mild. I'm looking for. I would take a slight step down in returns to have it be a little more passive. I mean, the thing for me, it's like I want a tax break and I want somebody to preserve my money.
Yeah, and that's what you're going. I would definitely recommend buy mobile homes that are just lot rent, and it is so simple.
All right, man. I'm gonna start getting on the hunt with this. I'll report back. I think we'll do some mailing campaigns and see how that
Yeah,
shakes
there
out.
you
I want a blind offer on a
go.
mobile home park would be kind of interesting.
Well, watch what you do there because some of them have like there's if you buy some, buy them with city water, city sewer. Don't buy the ones with the lagoon that are called, but some of those you have to spend 300K just to replace them.
Whoa. All
And
right.
if the EPA comes out and tells you you have to replace it, you have to replace it.
Wow. So just city utilities, city water, city sewer is what you said as well?
That's the only thing I buy. There are
Okay.
people that know what they're doing and get into that, but like some of those, you have to have a monthly inspection.
Wow.
So yeah, it can get crazy with that stuff. So don't.
Yeah.
So you send out a mailer with a blind offer, you might get one.
I might get myself some hot water. All right, that's good to know. It's funny. I actually looked at a mobile home park like 3 years ago in upstate New York, but it was on septic, and I think it needed to be replaced or something like that. And it just sounded like a headache. And it was 3,000 miles away from me. I'm like, this just sounds crazy. But the guy was willing to carry a note. I think he was selling it for like 180,000 or something super cheap like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, all right, man. Well, I appreciate your time here, Brian. This has been a fun chat, and you're coming out to the event, right?
Yep, I'm flying out Thursday, so yeah, excited.
Thursday. All right, man. I'll see you on the hike on Friday. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye, guys. See ya.